Here is how I live abroad as a 24-year-old British person currently living out of the UK. And I've currently been living out of the UK for nearly 3 years now. And in today's video, we're gonna go into how I actually live abroad, how I get around the visas and stuff, how I work, all that kind of thing. And yeah, just go into what I've done since I left the UK. Now this video is for anyone who wants to go and move abroad. The best thing about this is the way that I live abroad is possible for anyone in the UK who's in their 20s. This isn't, you don't have to have any skills, you don't have to have anything in particular. What I've done to live abroad the last 3 years, literally anyone can do. So if you're looking at moving abroad and you don't know where to get started, watch this video and it might just give you a few ideas on how you can live abroad for a while. So let me briefly sum up where I've been, where I've lived since leaving the UK. So I left the UK nearly 3 years ago at the age of 21. I lived in Australia for 2 years, worked and travelled there, pretty much travelled the whole country, lived in so many different places. I then went travelling in Asia for a few months and I'm currently living in New Zealand. Been in New Zealand for about 6 months and I think the plan at the moment is to go back to Australia in a couple of months. So you may be wondering, how can I do all that? How do I manage to stay abroad for so long? Let's start off with Australia. So to move to Australia, I applied for my working holiday visa, which is a visa for Australia. People between the ages of 18 and 35 can get this visa, and it means that they can work and live in Australia for up to 3 years. When I moved to Australia, I could only do 2 years. I actually had to do farm work to extend to a second year. To extend to a third year, you used to have to do 6 months farm work, but now, as of 2024 in July, people from the UK can go to Australia to live there for up to 3 years on a working holiday visa. And that's why now the rules have changed. We're definitely going to go back for a third year there. I did 2 years in Australia and it was the best time ever. I worked in so many different places. I lived in Sydney, I did my farm work up in Queensland, lived in Adelaide for a bit, lived in Perth for nearly a year and travelled pretty much the whole country. And I was able to do that because of the working holiday visa. I was able to get loads of different jobs. No matter where I went, I never really found it hard getting jobs or houses or anything. It also allowed me to travel the country and had the most amazing 2 years in Australia. The visa's not that expensive, it's only a couple of £100 for each year. So anyone in the UK in their 20s can go on the same visa that I did, go and work in Australia. You don't have to have experience or anything to find work there or live there. You're pretty much flexible to do what you want. If you've got the money, you can just travel as much as you want, but most people, they have to work. I had to work when I was there in order to save up for traveling, but that's how I moved to Australia. Once my 2 years were up in Australia, I went traveling through Southeast Asia for a couple of months. Traveling Asia was very easy for us. It was just, all we had to do was apply for tourist visas. For Thailand, for example, you can get a 30-day tourist visa. We were able to extend that tourist visa to 60 days when we were there. We did just over a month in Thailand, which was amazing. Southeast Asia is so good for young travelers. It's such a easy place to travel, so many travel opportunities, and some of the visas there will last you so long. You can stay in certain countries like Thailand, for example, for like, it's like 60 or 90 days or something, which is pretty mad. And then when you've finished in Thailand, you just have to leave the country for a bit, I'm pretty sure, and then you can go back into Thailand if you want to do longer. So travel in Southeast Asia, you can pretty much endlessly travel there. The visas are that good. Now, we wanted to move back to Australia initially after Southeast Asia. However, the visas rules hadn't quite come through yet in time. So yeah, we would have had to either keep traveling in Southeast Asia, or if we wanted to work, probably had to go back to the UK or something, which we did not want to do. So New Zealand offer the same visa that Australia do, a working holiday visa. You can do up to 3 years in New Zealand back to back. In fact, I think you've got to do it back to back in New Zealand. In Australia, you can come and go. Yeah, we got the same visa for New Zealand, and that's how we've been able to work and live here for the last 5 or 6 months. And yeah, it's been really easy finding work. Again, we had this apartment lined up before we even got to New Zealand, and pretty much the exact same as Australia. Once you've applied for your working holiday visa, you're flexible to do whatever you want. You can travel, you can work, whatever you want to do. This was a situation where we specifically came to New Zealand for work because we traveled Asia for a while. We knew we had to work, and it was either here or the UK that was the choice, so we chose here and we've been living here since. Yeah, the reason I'm doing this video is because a lot of you lot will be able to relate to it. If you want to move abroad, it's the easiest way you can do it. It'll be different if I was like, I have my own business, or I had a specific skill that was allowing me to move to a country, because like only certain people can do that. The difference with me living out of the UK is, unless you've got commitments like a family or a mortgage or something, literally anyone in the UK can do what I've done. It's really not that difficult. I've lived abroad for nearly 3 years now, and the best thing about it is that with the visas that are available to me, and that would also be available to you, you can continue living out the UK for so long. You can do 3 years in Australia, 3 years in New Zealand. You can travel pretty much endlessly, especially in places like Asia, like I did. And I get a lot of questions on TikTok, on Instagram and stuff, people being like, how do you live out of the UK? Like, what are you doing out there? Like, how are you able to stay out of the UK? How are you able to live abroad for so long? Is it not difficult with visas and stuff? But in reality, a working holiday visa is the best bet, because it's not like it used to be in Australia where you just had to get a year and you had to do farm work and all that to get longer. It's never been easier for people to move to Australia or New Zealand and live there for multiple years. It's never been easier. And it's why I encourage people in the UK to go and move abroad so much, particularly to Australia, because it's so easy now. If it was a big complicated process of moving abroad, then I wouldn't promote it as much as I would. But the fact that I could move there at 21 with hardly any experience, hardly any life experience, I'd never moved out before, it was my first time moving out. And if I can do that at 21, then trust me, anyone else in the UK in their 20s can do the exact same thing, and I would highly, highly recommend it. Now, I've done so many videos on the benefits of moving abroad and traveling. There's so many benefits, and I really do think it's changed my life since moving abroad. But this video was to clear up a few of the questions that I get asked about how I actually do it, because yeah, when people see you living a certain lifestyle and stuff, they kind of question, how are you doing that? But there's nothing special. Do you know what I mean? It's literally just applying for a few visas, and yeah, it allows you to work in these countries, which is amazing. If you've got any other questions about how to move abroad, particularly to Australia and New Zealand, because I've got quite a lot of experience with that now, then leave the questions down in the comments and I'll get back to them. And yeah, give the video a like, and I'll see you in the next video.